Anna wiped the sweat from her brow as she adjusted her small stall at the corner of the bustling market. The morning sun cast golden streaks over rows of colorful fruits, handmade crafts, and the chatter of vendors calling out their goods. But for Anna, today felt heavier than usual. Her hands were raw from hours of weaving tiny bracelets and sewing soft dolls, yet the coins in her tin barely added up. Each coin was a reminder that her little son, Maxim, depended on her entirely. She glanced at him playing nearby, his small hands smudged with chocolate from a candy he'd managed to grab. His laughter was bright, a sound that lifted her heart even on the darkest days, but the pang of worry never left her chest. How could she give him the world when she barely had enough to cover today? Across the market, a small cart painted red and gold drew attention with its simple sign, Mikhail's Candy Apples. Steam curled from caramel bubbling over glowing coals. Every day, the vendor, a quiet man with gentle eyes and a calm smile, offered a warm greeting, always noticing Maxim. Today was no different. "Good morning, Anna," he called, his voice soft yet steady. And for Maxim, a caramel apple, on the house. Maxim's eyes lit up as he rushed forward, and Anna felt a flicker of hope she hadn't felt in weeks. She tried to smile, but it felt forced. "Thank you, Mikhail," she murmured, her voice low. "You're too kind." He shrugged lightly, brushing caramel from his fingers. "Kindness doesn't cost anything, Anna. Besides, it makes the world sweeter, doesn't it?" Anna watched him turn back to his cart, slicing apples and dipping them in golden caramel, and she wondered what kind of man would be so quietly generous, day after day, with nothing expected in return. There was no showmanship, no loud calls to attract customers, just a steady, unwavering presence that seemed to make the market a little warmer. She turned back to her own stall, arranging her crafts with care, but her mind lingered on him. In a life that often felt like endless struggle, Mikhail's small acts of kindness were like sunlight through gray clouds. She had spent years learning to survive, to mask her exhaustion, to hide her fears from Maxim, but watching the candy vendor move with such patience and care, she felt something stir inside, a quiet hope, a sense that maybe life could be sweeter than she'd imagined. As the morning wore on, Anna greeted customers, counted coins, and tried to keep her worries tucked away. Yet every time she saw Mikhail smile or heard the clink of caramel apples being served, her heart lifted. Perhaps, she thought, there could be more than just survival. Perhaps, kindness, simple, unwavering, human kindness, was enough to remind her that life still held small miracles. And in that moment, as the market buzzed around her and Maxim bit joyfully into his caramel apple, Anna didn't yet know that this quiet, humble man beside her stall would one day change her world forever. Days turned into weeks, and the market became more than just a place for Anna to sell her crafts. It became a space of quiet warmth and small, unexpected joys. Each morning, she would arrive with Maxim tucked under her arm, and Mikhail would already be there, tending his caramel apples with the same calm, steady rhythm. It started with little gestures. He helped her carry boxes when her arms ached. He offered a warm smile when her hands shook from fatigue. Sometimes, he would tell a short story about the town, the streets he loved, or a memory from a simpler life. At first, Anna thought his kindness was just that, kindness. But slowly, the corners of her heart, long hardened by worry and hardship, began to soften. One rainy afternoon, a sudden downpour flooded the market, drenching Anna and her fragile stall. She scrambled to cover her crafts with plastic sheets, shivering as raindrops soaked through her thin coat. Mikhail appeared beside her as if from nowhere, holding a large umbrella and offering his hand. "Come on, let's save what we can," he said, his voice calm amidst the chaos. Together, they hurried to protect the dolls, bracelets, and trinkets. Mikhail's hands were careful, gentle, yet efficient, and Anna found herself laughing despite the rain. "You really are impossible to fluster," she said, shaking water from her hair. He smiled, a soft, almost shy smile. Maybe I just like helping people I care about." Anna's heart skipped a beat, and she looked away, pretending not to notice the warmth spreading inside her chest. She hadn't allowed herself to feel this way in years, not since Maxim's father had left, leaving her alone with nothing but worry and responsibility. And yet, here was a man who seemed to understand, without judgment, without expectation. Over time, their friendship grew into something more. They shared lunch breaks, exchanged small gifts, Mikhail's caramel apples for Anna's handmade bracelets. He listened when she spoke about her dreams for Maxim, about the world she wished she could give him. And slowly, Anna realized that love doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it appears quietly, in acts of attention, in steady support, in a hand held when the storm is heavy. Then came the evening that changed everything. Mikhail approached Anna as she closed her stall, hesitating for the first time. "Anna," he said softly, "I know life hasn't been easy, and I know I have nothing to offer except this." He held out a small caramel apple, dipped in gold leaf. "But I want to offer more than that. I want to share my life with you. Will you marry me?" Anna's eyes widened, her heart raced, and for a moment, words failed her. She looked at Maxim, playing nearby, and then back at Mikhail, the man who had made ordinary days feel extraordinary, who had given her hope when she thought there was none. "Yes," she whispered finally, her voice trembling with joy. "Yes, I will." At that moment, the rain had stopped, the sky was painted in hues of pink and gold, and Anna felt a quiet certainty that sometimes, the most profound love grows from the simplest acts of kindness. And little did she know, the story of their love was only just beginning. The morning of their wedding arrived like a gentle whisper of magic. The little town was buzzing with excitement, though no one could imagine the surprise that was about to unfold. Anna stood in her simple yet elegant dress, her hands trembling as she adjusted her veil. Maxim clung to her side, his small fingers wrapped tightly around hers, eyes wide with wonder. Mikhail arrived quietly, as he always did, his usual calm presence steadying Anna's nerves. But before the ceremony could begin, he paused and looked down at her with a serious expression. "Anna," he said, "I need to step away for a moment." "I'll be right back." Anna nodded, trusting him as she always had, though a pang of worry tugged at her heart. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. She busied herself with last-minute preparations, but her mind kept drifting to the man who had quietly changed her life. Then came the sound of sleek black cars rolling into the village square. Heads turned, whispers rippled through the crowd, and a hush fell over the gathering. Anna's heart raced. Who could it be? From the largest car stepped Mikhail, but he was no longer the humble candy apple vendor she had known. His simple clothes had been replaced by a tailored suit, polished shoes gleaming, and a presence that radiated authority and wealth. The villagers murmured, astonished, as he approached Anna. With a warm smile, kneeling slightly to take her hand. "I wanted you to see me as I am," he said softly, his eyes locking onto hers. "Not as a man with wealth, or a name, or possessions, but as someone who loves you for your heart." Anna's eyes filled with tears. She could hardly comprehend what she was seeing. "Mikhail, she stammered, words failing her. He gently squeezed her hand. "I'm the owner of the company that runs this market, Anna. The truth is, I've lived simply among the people I care about to understand what really matters. And through all of this, I wanted to know who would see me for the man inside, not the fortune outside." Anna's heart swelled. All the kindness, patience, and love he had shown, every small act that had made her heart flutter, suddenly made perfect sense. It had never been about money, it had been about humanity, about seeing and caring for another person. For a long moment, they simply stood there, holding hands, letting the enormity of the moment settle over them. The crowd watched in silence, some smiling, some wiping tears, all witnessing a love story that was more extraordinary than any of them could have imagined. Mikhail knelt again, this time fully, and whispered, "Anna, you chose love over everything else. You chose me for who I am, not for what I have. That is a gift more precious than any fortune in the world. Will you marry me?" Anna looked at him, at Maxim, at the stunned but smiling villagers, and finally spoke the words that had been true all along. "Yes, yes, I will." And in that moment, Anna realized that the sweetest surprises in life are often hidden beneath ordinary appearances, and that love, when rooted in kindness and authenticity, can transform everything it touches. The town square was buzzing with curiosity and quiet excitement as Mikhail and Anna returned from their private moment. Everyone had sensed that something extraordinary was about to happen, but no one could have predicted the revelation that had just unfolded. Whispers of disbelief floated through the crowd, but Mikhail's calm, warm presence seemed to steady every heart. Anna stood beside him, her hand tightly clasped in his. The reality of who he was, his wealth, his influence, hadn't changed how she felt. If anything, it deepened her admiration for him. For years, he had lived quietly among people, showing that generosity and kindness mattered more than money. And now, he wanted to share that gift with the entire town. Stepping forward, Mikhail addressed the crowd. His voice was steady, gentle, yet filled with authority that demanded attention. "Friends, neighbors, everyone who has made this town feel like home," he began, "I have lived among you to see life through the eyes of ordinary people. And what I have seen is extraordinary. I have seen courage, resilience, and kindness that money could never buy." Anna watched as his gaze swept across familiar faces, vendors, children, mothers, elders, all of whom had worked tirelessly to build their lives, often against overwhelming odds. Mikhail continued, "Today, I want to give back, not just to Anna or my family, but to all of you who make this town what it is. We will rebuild the school, repair the market, and create opportunities for every family here. True wealth," he said, turning to Anna with a tender smile, "is not what we keep, it is what we share." Tears filled Anna's eyes. She had dreamed of a better life for Maxim, but she had never imagined it could extend to the entire community. Vendors who had struggled for years suddenly saw new stalls, children ran to see refurbished classrooms, and families who had feared their future now smiled with hope. The town had been transformed in a single, profound act of generosity. But the greatest gift, Anna realized, was not the wealth or the buildings, it was the lesson. Mikhail had shown that one person's kindness, when paired with compassion and integrity, could ripple out to touch hundreds of lives. And in his quiet, unassuming way, he had given her the chance to witness the power of love expressed through action. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops and the market glowed with warm lights, Anna and Mikhail stood hand in hand at their candy apple stall. Maxim clutched his mother's hand, eyes wide with wonder at the bustling, happy crowd. Anna looked at Mikhail, her heart full. "You didn't just change my life," she whispered. "You've changed everything." He smiled, dipping a caramel apple in golden syrup. "We did this together," he said softly. "Because love, kindness, and generosity are never just for one person, they are for everyone." And as the townspeople celebrated, sharing laughter, cheers, and caramel apples, Anna understood something she had always longed for. That true happiness isn't measured by what we own, but by the lives we touch, the love we share, and the hope we inspire. Years had passed since that unforgettable day in the town square, yet the memory of Mikhail's revelation and generosity still lingered like a warm glow in Anna's heart. Life had blossomed in ways she could never have imagined. The little candy apple cart that had once stood at the corner of the market had grown into a small, thriving business, employing local families and supporting the community that had welcomed her and Maxim so warmly. Anna and Mikhail worked side by side, their love as steady and quiet as it had been from the very beginning. Every morning, they prepared caramel apples together, laughing as sugar bubbled over warm pans, teasing Maxim when he tried to sneak a taste. And in those small moments, Anna realized that the true magic of life wasn't in wealth or status, but in the simple joy of family, love, and community. One crisp autumn morning, as golden leaves swirled around the bustling market, Anna stood behind the stall, her eyes scanning the smiling faces of children and parents enjoying their treats. Maxim, now old enough to help serve customers, handed a caramel apple to a little girl, grinning from ear to ear. Mikhail approached quietly, slipping his hand into hers. "Do you remember the first time we met?" he asked softly, watching her smile light up. Anna nodded, a small laugh escaping her lips. "I thought you were just a candy apple vendor," she said, shaking her head. "I never imagined. You never imagined I was a billionaire in disguise." Mikhail finished for her, smiling. "It seems ridiculous now, doesn't it?" Anna laughed, the sound ringing like music through the market. "It wasn't about that," she said. "It was about your heart. You've always cared, without asking for anything in return. That's what changed my life." Mikhail tightened his hand around hers. "And you changed mine," he whispered. "You taught me that love and kindness are more powerful than any fortune, more lasting than any building or business." As the sun dipped low, casting long golden shadows across the market, Anna watched the community she had once only dreamed of helping flourish before her eyes. Families who had struggled now thrived, children learned and played in the rebuilt school, vendors smiled as they ran successful stalls. All of it, the laughter, the hope, the happiness, was the living proof of what they had achieved together. Anna bent down to Maxim, brushing a strand of hair from his face. "You see, my little one," she said, "happiness isn't about having everything. It's about sharing what you have and loving with all your heart." Mikhail joined them, wrapping his arms around Anna and Maxim. The three of them stood together, watching as the market glowed with life, laughter, and the sweet aroma of caramel apples. And in that perfect, golden moment, Anna realized something profound. That love, kindness, and generosity are not fleeting. They grow, ripple outward, and transform everything they touch. And sometimes, the simplest acts, like sharing a candy apple, can change the world. The story of a humble candy apple vendor and a single mother had become more than a tale of love. It had become a promise that hope, humanity, and compassion can create a legacy that lasts forever.